Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Dotson, and I'm your host of Poetry Today. I'm really thrilled to have Bill Carey with us. Let me read you his brief bio. William T. Carey lives with his wife in the Chicago area. Okay, secretly he lives in Highland Park. Their child and adult son luckily visits frequently. Carey attended the University of Notre Dame and Washington University Law School. For decades, Carey has operated a real estate investment business with his siblings. In later years, he returned to the world of language, his first love. A songwriter who recorded 2 albums of songs for families, Carey plays piano and guitar. Other interests include tennis, travel, reading, hiking, and Tai Chi. Thank you so much for joining us, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Well, we've done this a little backwards because oftentimes I try to have these kinds of interviews before you are a guest at one of our featured readings. But actually, we did this in reverse order.
We did.
You were a guest on September 14th, and now we're doing the interview. So
that's fine.
For people who don't know, Bill has also been a longtime participating poet with Highland Park Poetry, including serving as a part of our events team, as well as contributing editor of Road Trips. Poets Respond to Travel on Life's Highways and Byways, which was published this summer by Highland Park Poetry Press. The anthology is available on Amazon as well as on the website, Muses Gallery. It'll be there now through the end of November. So, you come from a very creative family.
Indeed.
What got you interested in poetry?
What a question. What did get me interested in poetry? I don't remember because I started writing poetry when I was in high school or college. I don't really remember, so long ago. But I was always interested in literature, and that was my focus in college. And I took some poetry classes, and I started writing. I think I started writing in college, and then I dropped it for many years. I was practiced law for some years, and I, continued our family real estate investment business for many years, and it just got away from me. And then 10 years ago or so, I thought, why not write another poem? So I guess that's the genesis of it from my college days. But
wow. Okay. As I just said, Bill was recently one of our featured poets at Highland Park Poetry's monthly reading and open mic event on September 14th, where he read several works from his debut poetry collection, Family Rattling. That was published earlier this year by Kelsey Books. Did you want to say anything about your process, about the creation of this book, or what that was like?
Well, it's a book that a lot of my work tends to focus on my family. It's a source of endless fascination to me. I have been in business with my family for many years, and that so I see my family more than many people see their families, I think. So a lot of my poems tend to relate to that, and so when I started to put collections together to send out for consideration, it seemed that was a natural way to put the poems together in a group, and so that was really the way this collection came about, I guess, for the most part. There are some other pieces in there that don't relate to family and friends, but most of it is that, and that's the way it kind of grew together in the last couple of years when I was attempting to get it published.
Well, and at the reading, your son introduced you, and you then introduced your son because apparently he created the cover design.
He did. Yeah, my son Will is a good painter. It's not his. It is his avocation, and so he generously gave me the time to create this image, and it is quite appropriate for the book because it depicts the view from the backyard of my parents' home, where so much of the action of the book takes place, and so it's very appropriate for the volume, and I was so grateful to him. He did a terrific job. It's a nice abstract and very pretty, I think.
Yeah, no, it is wonderful. Of course, all this talk about the book, it does seem to make a perfect segue for us to invite you to actually share a poem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, sure, of course, Jennifer. A poet's always happy to read his or her poems, right?
Well, hopefully. Hopefully.
I'm always happy. You know, some people don't want to, are not comfortable presenting orally, you know, as you know. And I am, so it doesn't bother me to do so. But yeah, I'll sure happy to do so. I'll read the first poem in the collection, which is one of my favorites of mine, called Superman. It's about my father's years in dementia, and that was. It's for those who are not familiar with it, or for those who are, it's a period of intensity, but and sadness, but also of many moments of joy. And so this is an ode to my superhero father. It's called Superman. A cape is hinted only by the wide nappy taped under his chin. Dad's so Clark Kent in unassuming khakis and gray Velcro tennies. No one suspects his powers. He sees x-rays to hearts of matters, childlike. Superboy at 6. He speaks a fractured patois straight out of Krypton. He's compassionate and sensitive beyond human scope in empowering dementia. He's all hope, otherworldly positive and cheery in challenging obstacle, ordinary stare, or villain, errant caregiver. His flights shoot above mortal clouds like bullets, Chicago to Pittsburgh to South Bend to Dublin, wherever whimsy jets through his mind unfettered, flitting through his life scenes at sound barrier breaking speed. His prime power, though, is indestructibility. He slip slides for the umpteenth time from recliner to hard floor, and flies from den without cane out back door, searching for Jimmy or Lois or homier voices. He careens off the stoop to crash land on bush and stone wall. Serene in paramedics' care and ER, this fallen hero without fail survives danger upon danger, magic armor, shedding threats to old flesh and impenetrable memory. His hand grip, iron, like Superman's resolve to save the planet, belies the flaccid mental grasp. We count on him to cure us of conceit and other frailties, while he, with no sense of failure, loss, or sin, is near to God, naive as any man ever has been.
I did like that one. That's a good one. Very good. Okay, come on, give us another one.
Okay. How many do you want, Jennifer?
We'll do with two for the second one right now, and then I'll have some more questions for you. How's that?
That's fine. Okay. Here's one for my wife, Lynn, and me. I am fascinated, as you may recall, by the natural sciences, but know very little about them except for the jargon and and general concepts. So this poem is filled with references to physics for those who know that science. It's called Mixology. They're strange flavors, like startling foodie combinations that look more edible than they are. They should meld easily. The same age, after all, same songs, all that. Their groups function similarly, benign and predictable, mapped fully. But now too reactive, then unreactive, they imbalance according to no law. Their atomic digits only explode. Their noble gases are just farts. Still, staring at their periodic puzzle boards, they sense holy order, knowing that notwithstanding science, they trend upward better intertwined than as isolated elements.
I do like that one.
And I can confirm that we are still intertwined and not
that's
isolated.
Good. That's good. That's very good.
Anyway.
Well, you talked about your family as a great source of inspiration for your writing. Are there other sources of inspiration at all?
Well, random sources. I'm just, what else is in here? Random sources. I see a poem here about, and you recall this one, I think, too, coffee, that from the Italian coast, Cinque Terre, produced something. I was hiking in Boulder, Colorado, and saw on the face of what they call the Flatiron rock high above the university a big, the letters CU in huge red paint. It must be 40 feet tall. It's visible from the hiking trail. And this was such a bizarre sight to me that produced a poem. So I just random provocations.
So that's interesting. So, okay, question. Do you have like a regular writing regimen?
I do not.
Okay. I don't either. So that's really
incredibly irregular.
Okay.
Often I don't have any routine, but often late at night, when things are a little quieter, sometimes the muse will come to me, and I think to myself, you haven't written anything in a week, so put something down now. And so sometimes late at night, I get to it.
Was there ever a moment that surprised you about the power of words?
A particular moment. Well, I don't recall any particular moment, but I have to say that I remember often being impressed by my father's command of the English language. And he was a great orator. He was the national debate champion at University of Notre Dame many decades ago. So I don't remember any specific moment, but I think that he probably instigated a love of language for me. And he had a powerful way with presentation and with words. So I remember that.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that your studies in law and practice in law, that must have happened. So after college, when you started writing poetry, was there perhaps any poetry in your law practice?
Not too much there.
Okay.
I have to say. law involves the use of words, manipulation of words in a way that is not so dissimilar from the poetic angle. It's a different take on the use of words, but poems are, from my perspective, a way to convey feeling and emotion, and in law, one often uses words to express those same things and many other things. But they both employ words for specific purposes, and they're not completely unrelated.
Okay.
I think. But I don't think I ever have written a poem about the law. So.
Okay. Well, you don't have to.
No, I'm just.
Okay.
But you're raising something for me.
Okay.
Maybe I'll take a look at that.
Okay. Well, then I'm also intrigued. Your involvement with music and writing children's songs. I guess I'm just curious about the whole process. I mean, are writing lyrics the same as writing a poem, or are they distinct?
That's a good question. They are related, but not the same. In songwriting, pop songwriting usually involves words that rhyme, and poetry can, of course, involve words that rhyme. And I tend to use internal rhymes in my poetry, but not poetry that necessarily in which the last word of every line rhymes. And in songwriting, usually lines 1 and 3 rhyme, 2 and 4 rhyme, that kind of thing. So to write a catchy song, more rhyming is necessary than at least in my than is necessary in my poetry.
Gotcha.
But they are related. They're not the same, but they are, of course, related. Yeah.
Are you doing more songwriting now, or is that
from time to time?
Oh, okay.
From time to time. Yeah, I'm actually working. I'm working on a song with my son Will at the moment, and he and I at this point record songs from time to time. But I write more poetry than songs at this stage of life. So
interesting. Interesting. Okay. So obviously you keep up with your, with your instrument playing skills as well.
I do.
Do you practice like?
I don't practice a lot, but I like to play the piano and guitar from time to time when time permits. I do. Yeah, I enjoy that. It's another escape for me. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. I let all those years of piano practice go completely lapse. So
it's too bad.
Yeah. All right. I think it's time for us to hear some more of your poetry. So
okay. I'm happy to comply.
Excellent.
Well, okay. Do one for my mother, and then one for my son, at this being a family-oriented book. My mother, Helen, was a very religious person, but always bothered by one line in the famous Christian prayer, the Lord's Prayer, that ran, "Lead us not into temptation." When Pope Francis took his position, he also, oddly enough, was bothered by that line. So here's the poem that arose from that odd combination of circumstances, Helen and Francis. Mom, ever analytical and thoroughly prayerful, was ever bugged that God might tempt us to be, shall we say, less careful. Not possible, she knew, not logical, she firmly stated. He would surely guide away from that which lures us, right? Saying the famous prayer every night therefore stressed her, but what could she do? Apparently fated. That was the damn language, writ large, almost algebraic. So she resigned her soul to the silly translation, knowing naught of Aramaic, but suspected some divine mistake. Then comes Francis, the holy disruptor, who must have always felt the same. Who knew that he would unlock Cuba, non-judge gays and divorcees, and reformat the way we pray. God's foreman knows how to shape the shop's rules. Do not abandon us to temptation. A fresh lesson to pump up Sunday school. The new line cries out for exclamation. Imagine Mom's relief and somewhat smug elation.
That's good.
So kind of silly, but
That's good.
And it's funny, that so often we want things different in our lives, and there's so little that we can control in life, and we wish that something would change, and it doesn't. But here, she wanted all her life. She wanted this to be different, and by God, it became different. And so I think she was really happy about that.
That's good.
Anyway, here's one. Here's one for my son, Will. Self-explanatory, called "My Son Laughed With Me Tonight." My son laughed with me tonight. That's the big news. The setting doesn't matter. I'll tell you anyway. First, he turns 20, bleak teens a muddy memory, and takes to talking. Second, he's happy. Third, he supposedly searched for his camera and accessories many times, everywhere, many times. I hie home from work, hug my wife, hike my stairs. He straightens while mucking out his room, holds small wood in hand like a pot of gold, says, grinning, I found a cello string bridge. Comes to the doorway edgy bouncy, says, I also found my camera, battery, and charger. Where? I set him up as if rehearsed. He comically steps on stage for stand-up. No nerves, he's a natural, his delivery is killer. The punchline lavas up in unfettered flow. In the hall cabinet where the camera stuff is always kept. We lock howling eyes and levitate, giddy at the absurdity. Here's the point. We clicked intimately, like gears, like synapses, like college roommates at reunion, like even dad and son, forgot selves and egos and maleness. Just like that, finger snap, job done. Something deep and somehow chi. I love him, and he laughed with me.
I like that. It's very nice. That's
I'm glad.
wonderful. Well, I have kids who are, now young adults, 26 and 27, although if they won't watch the show, they'll be horrified if they find, Mom, I'm not that old, or I'm not that young, whatever. I don't know which way I'm going, Aaron. But yes, there is that horrible midsection of life, like teen, all through high school, some into college, where they just don't like you very much,
Well,
so.
and they don't like themselves very much either, I think. I
Okay.
think they're not
Yeah.
comfortable with themselves, which is true of people at many stages of life, but I think that's true. I think they're uncomfortable with the whole thing,
Yeah.
and it is hard to hard to get through. But and you have daughters or sons?
I have one of each.
Okay.
A son
Is it
and a
easier
daughter.
to communicate? Do you get more communication from your daughter or from your son?
Ooh. Well, my son and I, we have a daily check-in
Oh.
because we compare our Wordle scores.
Okay. All right. That's good.
So,
That,
but
that-
that's really the extent.
Okay.
I can't really tell you any
Okay.
details about his life,
Mhm.
but I know who did better in the Wordle.
Well, it's
today
you
or
know
yesterday.
it's funny. It's good to be able to connect with young men on some level, and it's not easy because in my experience, young men are not especially communicative. Having been a young man, I don't mean to hit my microphone, but I know that that's the case, and it's the case with my son and many other men that you probably know. Men are not especially good at communication. But if you can find a way in, if you can find a way to communicate something like Wordle or something, for instance, with my son, like music, painting, art, that kind of thing, it's good to have a hook, a way to something common,
Okay.
some that is in common. That's my advice for communicating with your son, in case you wanted it.
Thank you. So in addition to that song you mentioned, do you have any other creative projects that you're working on or on the different burners of your creative stove?
Just some more poetry. As time goes along, I'm working on different things. I'm in the middle of I don't know how you work. I tend to be in the middle of a number of different poems at the same time for some
okay.
reason, and then I'll go back. Not in any sequence or any cycle. I just, I have 4 or 5 things going at once, and then I pick at them over time.
Okay.
So
All right.
those are my creative projects
Okay,
at the
good.
moment.
If you could share any advice or encouragement to your younger self, what would it be?
I would tell my younger self to be much more vulnerable and much more engaging with the world, and much less worried about how I might be perceived by the world, and just let it rip more, and not feel so constrained.
Okay.
I think.
That's good advice. Very good advice. We are sort of at that final point. Is the last poem that you had to share short, or?
It could be short, yes.
Okay.
Sure. Let's do that.
We've got like 1 minute to wrap it
Oh
up.
boy. Okay. Then I'll read the shortest one here for my wife, called Mother's Day number 19. His mother, my wife, no other, no strife, our druthers, our life. Teach, learn to see life's fecundity, love abundantly. Soft butter, hot knife, her drum, our fife. Comfort, night light. Teach, learn to free life abundantly, love exponentially.
Ah, perfect. That's great. Well, thank you very much for joining us today for this brief poetic conversation, and for sharing your work from Family Rattling, which is also available from Kelsey Books and Amazon, and I think also Barnes and Noble online. So, any
Mhm.
other of that places?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, check it out. Get
Yes.
yourself a copy.
Please do so.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Sure.
Jennifer.
Thank
Glad
you.
to be here,
Yes,
as usual.
wonderful to have you.